Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harping on Rugby podcast. Joining me this week is someone back after working with friend of the pod, Alvin Nolan, to produce the excellent Mother Rucker podcast covering the recent World Cup. He's now making his 43rd Harping pod appearance. A warm welcome back to Mr. RugbyKino himself, Kino Muller.
Thanks, William, for having us back, Jeff. Geez, 43. I'm getting up there in the numbers now.
I know. You'll be hitting 50 before long. That's some achievement. We haven't
Pushing
quite
my.
made the Kigo numbers yet, though.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to catch up with Kigo. He's a kind of
No.
the podcast version of a Wooden Club man. Like,
That's it. That's it. That's it. There you go. Okay. Well, listen, I suppose we can't put it off any longer. Let's turn our attention to our feature match of the week. Here's a generic 80-word summary of how things went. Ireland fell 24-13 to South Africa in the Quilter Nations Series, undone by indiscipline and scrum dominance. James Ryan's early red card compounded sin bins for Sam Prendergast, Jack Crowley, Andrew Porter, and Paddy McCarthy. Despite Dan Sheehan's try and spirited defence, the Springboks struck through Damien Willemse, Kobus Rainak, and Sasha Feinberg Emma Ngozulu, plus a penalty try. And Andy Farrell praised his side's resilience, noting they edged the second half 6-5 and highlighted valuable learnings ahead of a Six Nations opener against France. Now, obviously, we're going to go into a little bit more detail than that. To start us off this week, Kino would like to harp on a topic he has titled Cards, Chaos, and the Carley Factor.
yeah, it's a fair play for trying to summarize that match in 80 words because, frankly, it's impossible. You can't really do it. That was the. It was just bonkers. I've never seen a rugby game like it. Um, It's just like scale of content of chaos throughout it was just literally from the kickoff all the way through to 80 minutes. I mean, a game which Ireland give away 18 penalties. I mean, normally we're aiming for kind of half that. In fairness, we've not been great this autumn in terms of keeping those numbers down, but 18 is insane. And then for that to result in five cards, five separate cards, one of which was a 20-minute red.
And actually,
Um,
could have been more, in
and it
fairness.
could have been more.
Yeah.
So to play that 80-minute game essentially with a man down for an hour of that between them all, and often actually they layer it up on top of each other. But despite all of that, the possession and territory was pretty much evenly split between the two sides. It doesn't make any sense. Um, let's see. I suppose we're talking cards. We absolutely have to own some of these. The Ryan Red, absolutely no issues with that. It was a bad clean out. Not helped by the fact that he was literally stopped at the edge of the ruck and then decides to go for it and doesn't paint the right picture. Like there might have been some mitigation, bit of a height change at the last second, maybe. But if your hand this is what they're looking for now. They're looking for where your hand palm is pointed, whether it's pointed towards the opposition goal line or your own, and whether your hand is open or closed. If your hand is closed and pointed towards your own goal line, you're in trouble. It's going to be called as a shoulder charge, rather than a tackle and go under that. So yeah, no arguments there. That was stone cold 20-minute red. Possibly lucky it didn't go full red, frankly. Um, the Prendergast yellow for team infringements, again, yeah, it's kind of hard to argue with. There were really, really huge numbers of infringements in that goal line defense. What was it, between 34 and 36 minutes, I think. Um, the Crowley yellow, that was dumb. You get away with that in AIL maybe where there isn't a telly-ref. But if there's, kind of five or six cameras on you, you are not going to get away with that unless there's maybe another three lads on top of that rock. Then maybe you get away with it. Um, the Porter yellow, yeah, he was going down in the scrum every time, and with in the scrum interpretation that was being applied, yeah, kind of you had to give that yellow eventually. To be honest, it could have probably gone to either himself or the other side. It's it was not a good day at the scrum. I'll get into that in more detail after this one. Um, so yeah, I mean those, and there's a penalty try off the back of that as well. So those. cards directly contributed to like 19 first half points for South Africa. Um, and that was the game. There was really no coming back from that, especially without the functioning ball. But we then went and won the second half. That makes no sense. It's chaos. It's still chaos. Um, and back to cards plus chaos, and then or no cards plus chaos was the non-call on Sasha Feinberg Mngwanzulu. I have never heard a referee talk themselves out of a card so completely as that. I think Rossi's comments and the previous cards that they've been given in the Autumn Internationals really got into Carley's head on that, and he twisted himself into a pretzel shape, making sure that was called back to just a penalty. So honestly, our cards, yeah, can't argue with those. But the lack of consistency grates there, I have to say. Honestly, don't know that it would have affected the final result, given how I think a bit more conversation, a bit more concentration from them. They would have scored more off their scrum dominance. So yeah, I mean, it's just impossible to try and capture all of this in one go. But it was an absolutely insane match.
Yeah, there's just so much to go through. I mean, just personally from my point of view, uh, my headspace going into this was like it was a cup final, right? We
Mm,
were either going to win it or we're not. So the way the
yes.
game transpired, and after the red card, and well, after the non-call, and then the red card, and then we're losing penalty try right on the break, going into the second half with Toma. I mean, the game was lost in my head, and it was just disappointment. I couldn't see it. I was just negative, and it was luckily I had the Harpin WhatsApp group with you guys because you were all pointing out that there was gutsy displays out there, and I just couldn't see it because I was sort of clouded by the disappointment. But it is true. It is true, and we'll talk some more about how strongly we defended. I think you came up with a brilliant an analogy in the group that it was sort of a Helm's Deep kind of
Oh
analogy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how that's what it felt like. So apologies to South African fans for comparing them to orcs, but I think Razzie wouldn't mind being compared to Sauron. I think he likes the bad guy image himself anyway. But listen, no, but it's just the way it went. I think from an Irish point of view, now Carley, the referee, is not going to care what happened in Chicago, but from an Irish point of view, for that call to go the way it did compared to what happened to Tyke Byrne in Chicago at the very same stage of the game, and both of them went against Ireland. I mean, like, yeah, you said he talked himself out of it. His exact words were, he doesn't have time to bring his arm up. It's like, how, like,
Which is odd, given that he's actually going actively into a tackle situation.
yeah, but it's classic. He was, like you say, he was looking for a way out, and he
Yeah.
he he sort of made a sort of an off ramp for himself to go penalty only. And I think in any situation you would have seen that a card. Now, like you say, could that have made a difference in the game? I mean, I think it could have. That the extra. The extra man could have done for Ireland. I mean, but you look at the way the game went from Ireland's point of view. Um, uh, Even before that, the first Irish attack, Visa jackaled a penalty. Now, you could say whether or not that was a proper penalty or not in itself. You could argue that in itself. But
It wasn't.
no, exactly. He kind of came in from the side. But
Yeah.
that said, if you're not even the fact that he got over the ball at all, do you know what I mean? It's like we were if you're going to play against South Africa, you're going to have to watch the ball and have
Yeah.
and go into every contact with clear outs ready to go. And
Especially
then
in the 22. Especially in the
absolutely,
22.
absolutely. And then the first South Africa attack, they scored pretty much. They
Yeah.
they 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 created the space. That was still 15 on 15 then. They created the space quickly out wide. They created a 4-on-2. I think it was
Yeah.
Tommy O'Brien and Sam. I think Tommy sort of covered for Sam. I think it was sort of Sam's man, but Tommy came over to cover him, and then the try is scored pretty much by then, because now it's a whatever, it's 3-on-1 outside. So that kind of start didn't help, but still, we managed. We were always in it. And what was frustrating about the Ryan card as well is that it wasn't just the incident itself, and it was a silly clear out by him. I think you're playing the Springboks and you have to bring that extra bit of aggression. You do. And Leinster have had these games against South African teams as well over the years. So we've gotten more used to them. We've gotten more used to being in that mentality, but sometimes it can get the better of you. You do a clear out and you just went too hard into it. And but that came after Sam's thing hit the post. Sam's
Yeah,
kick had hit the post, and we actually scored a try. That negated a possible try as well.
yeah,
So it was that extra element to it. If you look at, and you said it yourself, you look at all the South African points, they came from mistakes that we made.